All right, hello and welcome back. In this video, I'll be going over the Philosophers Quotes, the Revolutionary Bracket, and the Revolutionary Cartoon. So with the Philosophers Quotes, when we took our notes on the principles of government, we discussed some particular philosophers that had a big influence on how we as American colonists, or at least not we because we weren't there, how the American colonists back in the 16 and 1700s viewed government. So the four people that we talked about were John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Baron de Montesquieu. All right, so we got Locke, Rousseau, Hobbes, and Montesquieu. So of those four people, we need to figure out who is saying these quotes and how we know that. So for example, for number one, this one says, the social compact, which sounds a lot like contract, sets up among the citizens an equality of such a kind that they all bind themselves to observe the same conditions and should therefore all enjoy the same rights. So out of the four philosophers that we have, out of our four options, we have to figure out which person said this and how we know that. So in the first three sentences, we can go ahead and do a little bit of process of elimination. So we got social compact, which we said sounds like social contract. There are only two out of our four philosophers who say anything about the social contract, and that would be Rousseau and Hobbes. So we can go ahead and eliminate John Locke because we don't see anything about natural rights in here. We see the word rights, but not discussed in terms of natural rights. And we don't need Montesquieu because we don't see anything in here about separating powers in a government. So it's got to be either Rousseau or Hobbes. So out of the two, if you are writing this down on paper copies, you can circle or highlight. But if you do not have that, you can just highlight physically on a Google Doc. You should make a copy of this so that you can type on it yourself. So I said social compact. And then also, they all bind themselves to observe the same conditions and then the same rights. So I'm going to highlight this also. All right, and then the same rights. So I'm starting to get myself some evidence here. So out of Rousseau and Hobbes, this would be Rousseau because we don't see anything listed on here. And make sure you type in a color other than black so that it's easy for me to see what the difference is between question and answer. So it's got to be Rousseau because Rousseau says that if your government does not work, you can overthrow it. Now, this doesn't really sound overtly, like really obviously like Rousseau, but it's definitely not Hobbes because there's nothing in there about how consent equals absolute power. Okay, so that's Rousseau. And how do we know it's not Locke? Gotta capitalize. Locke or Monty. Can't be Hobbes because not about authority, okay? Back it up a little bit so it stays nice and even on one line. All right, and then we'll do the second one as an example, and then I'll let you loose on the rest of them. No man has any natural authority over his fellow man. There's one word that we can use to help us figure that out. I'm going to alternate our highlight colors. Natural authority over his fellow man. You don't see anything in here about social contract, so it can't be Rousseau, and it can't be Hobbes. We don't see anything in here about separation of powers, so it can't be Montesquieu. And because we see the word natural, that should clue us in that this is going to be John Locke. All right, and how do we know? This is natural, not about social contract or separation of powers. Okay, so you rinse and repeat for the rest of them. You will repeat philosophers a couple times, so please don't feel like because you use Rousseau up here, you can't use it again. You will be using philosophers more than one time, at least once, in fact, if not twice. All right, so you rinse and repeat all the way down through number 10 for the philosophers' quotes. And then we're going to scoot over here real quick to our modules and talk about this revolutionary bracket. So for our first part of our conflicts leading to revolution, I think I might have somebody in my Zoom, but I'm not sure. So for our conflicts leading to revolution, we had a specific, we had about 9 different acts that we were looking at. So for this one, we are going to decide which one is the most important or is the most influential in pushing us towards revolution. And we're going to do that through brackets. We're going to put them in pairs, and if the two of those were to get in a fight, who do you think would win? Who is the most significant? So start on the left, move left to right, and define each event one time. So when you define an event, so for example, we would do navigation acts. I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit so it's easier to see. All right, so actually pause. Let me talk about points first. So in order to get full credit, you have to make the bracket. And so all you have to do is either redraw this or take a screenshot of this and put text boxes on top of it. You have to define each one of these acts, which is from your notes, which should be a real easy 40 points. And then once you figure out who your winner is of the bracket over here, you have to explain which event wins and why, and that'll give you your final 20 points for a total of 100. So for example, a bracket is just a way to figure out who wins and to easily put together a list of who wins. So for example, if we go left to right, this is our first match, all right, between the Navigation Acts and Bacon's Rebellion. So for this one, I would define the Navigation Acts and say they tried to regulate trade and give Great Britain extra taxes. Okay, for mercantilism, and so that would be my definition. That would be what I have, half of what I have to do for that. And then for Bacon's Rebellion, I would say farmer leads rebellion against British government. All right, so that's my other definition. And then out of the two of these, whichever one I think is more influential in pushing us towards revolution wins and gets to move forward up to this little spot. So you see how this line connects to these two? Whichever one of these wins, let's say for example I say Bacon's Rebellion, I would then put Bacon's Rebellion up here. You only have to define it one time. I don't want you to have to rewrite definitions. All right, and then between the French and Indian War and Bacon's Rebellion, you have to define French and Indian War up here, and then decide out of the two of those who wins. So for example, if you want to put French and Indian War, then French and Indian War moves forward. The winner always advances and the loser stays. Okay? All right, so rinse and repeat for all of these pairs. So out of these two pairs, which one moves forward here? And then let's say, for example, you say French and Indian War there, and then you say Boston Massacre here. Between French and Indian War and Boston Massacre, which one wins? So on and so forth until you get to a final winner. There is not a right or wrong answer. I will tell you what the actual answer is in your second video for Conflicts Part 2, but this is your opinion. I'm not going to count points off for your opinion, okay? So that is the bracket challenge, and then I'm going to scoot back out real quick to the cartoon. So for the cartoon, that'll be done after you finish up all 18 of the events that lead to revolution, and out of those 18, you have to choose 8 of them that you think are the most significant. So you can use part of your bracket to help you out if you'd like to. And you've got to either choose 8 conflicts and draw a doodle, like a little cartoon of each of those 8, or find me a meme online about it, or make me a meme online about it if you'd like to. If you want to use a GIF, that's also fine too, or GIF. I call it GIF because I just can. So 8 total conflicts, and they need to be in chronological order. So for example, if you choose Bacon's Rebellion, Stamp Act, and Declaration of Independence, the Stamp Act should not be first. So out of the 8 that you decide on, they should be in chronological order as well. Now, as one little side note, if you choose to use the Navigation Acts in your cartoon strip, which you are more than welcome to do, just note for chronological purposes, you can put the date on that as 1760 instead of 1660 because it was written in 1660, but nothing was really done about it and it was not enforced until 1760. Okay, so that's how you can put that in chronological order easily. All right, and that is all I've got for those 3 assignments, and if you need any further clarification, please do not hesitate to email me or text me on your mind.